and it gets random.
All right, so yo, we live on the air. This is the Beat People podcast, episode 37. I still feel like I want to do something special for episode 40, but I don't know what that is. But episode 37, we got my peoples in the place. We got the typical podcast panelists, but we have a special guest, Ski Beatz. Let's introduce everybody, and then so what's up, Ski?
What up, baby? How you feeling?
Good, man. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Word, man. You know, we talked about this for a while. Possibly getting you on. I'm glad you finally got on, man.
Yes, sir. My pleasure, baby.
Word. And what's up, Ken? Welcome back.
Yo,
man.
what's going on, man? I'm over here like Instagramming people and getting secretive about it. But yeah, man, I'm here chilling, getting ready to rearrange all my gear so I can lower my noise floor, hopefully a couple of dB, and get it nice and silent. Got some new sounds coming. Yo, I've been sampling sounds like crazy on that MPC, man. I'm about to drop a serious pack on people.
Oh yeah, I see you on you in a rare form with that MPC live, man.
Oh, I've been going crazy on this thing since the last show. I've dug in deep, and yeah, man, I got so much coming, man. So much coming.
Yeah, I heard you got on that MPC live once you saw me on that shit.
You know, that's honestly like I try to follow Stoney wherever she goes. That's what I'm trying to do. Like I'm trying to be like you.
Well, what's up, Stoney? It's been a
what
while.
Up? You know what up, man? It's been a while, man.
Allowed for you to not be around.
It's been around, been busy, just working on music, you know, working on my show, Stoney Sessions every Saturday night on IG Live, 9:30, and just building. You already know.
Yeah, I like the show too.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on there. What was it, a few weeks now? It seems like it's been a minute, but yeah, it's a dope show. I like the format. So Stoney has her show on IG Live Saturday nights.
Yeah, 9:30.
Saturday nights at 9:30, and it's really a cool format. It's like you know, just catching up with Stoney and talking about techniques and just about any and everything. But it's really like a kind of progressive sort of show. I dig it. So yeah. So yo, Ski. So let's since you're the special guest, we get started with the guest, and then we talk about like some of the background. So tell us for those that may be familiar, unfamiliar, or maybe not as familiar as they think. Tell people a little bit about Ski Beatz.
Ski Beatz, man. I'm a hip hop producer. I was born in North Carolina. I'm known for records. Mostly known for like the work I did with Jay-Z, Reasonable Doubt, Camp Lowe's first album, Uptown Saturday Night. 24 Hour Karate School, Currency Pilot Talks, produced a lot of people, man. I mean, the list goes on. I could name, but it's a lot of names. Right. I like doing that.
Hey, you know what? Before we look at this, I'll tell you. You call your studio the dojo, right? Huh? Yeah, right. So check this out.
Yep. Woo! Yeah, I'm peeking in the back. I love it.
Yeah, when I first got that, I said, I showed one of my homeboys who's been into karate and jiu-jitsu and all kinds of stuff for years. And he was like, now you got to call your lab the dojo. And then I realized you was calling your lab the dojo. So that's something we got in common. But I just call it that just because that karate picture is back there. If that ever leave, it don't make sense after that.
You know what? The only reason I call my studios the dojo, and obviously that came from the time when I was working on the 24-hour karate school. I called it the dojo simply because, not because of any karate type stuff, just because it's a place for people to come and get their self-discipline, from writers to producers.
Right.
We just come in and we train and we just try to stay disciplined, try to stay focused on the task at hand. So that's why we coined the phrase the dojo.
Word.
And unless you've been under a rock, he's had that for how many years now?
Yeah, it's been many years.
It's been a minute.
7.
Word up. Hey, so let me tell you, I want to go back and let's talk about what kind of gear were you using back when you did? Because I imagine, you're gearhead like we gearheads, and gear changes over the years, and sometimes the whole perspective on production changes depending on what you're using. But what were you using when you did Reasonable Doubt?
Reasonable Doubt, I was using the SP1200 and the Akai 950.
Okay. Word. I saw something when you were talking about how you filtered you know, you took like the samples, and that's the technique for some people that don't know. You take the sample, then you can filter the sample to get the bass lines out of there, use the same kind of chops, and that's kind of the techniques you was using back then too, right?
The low pass filter, you know, at the time I couldn't play a bass and I didn't have musicians at hand, but I always loved the, you know, the bass lines that was in the sample. So you know, low pass filter it, add a little resonance, you can kind of get that bass sound to poke out even more.
Word.
Yo, let me ask a question about that. So nowadays we have so much more at our disposal, right? We've got all these plugins, you know, you got access to actual live players that it's easy to actually record in your own space now. Whereas back then you might have had like, you know, you might have had an old Roland VS or something, but like really like it wasn't as easy to track live as it is now. You know what I mean? So nowadays, do you find yourself when you use newer gear, like anything from a plug-in to a live player or whatever, do you find yourself at all trying to capture the old sound of when you would filter out the sample and get that bass line? So now it's like, it's the opposite. Whereas before you were taking a sample, trying to make it sound like, okay, now I have a bass player here. Now you might be doing the exact opposite. Now I got this bass line, but I want to make it sound like an old filtered out sample. You see what I'm saying?
Definitely. I might have a live bass guy come in and I'll filter the sample. I'll filter his bass just to get that, you know, that muffled, that underwater stuff. You know what I mean? So I definitely use the old techniques with the new technology. That's a plus of being from the 90s era. You know, all these certain things that these new cats, you know, and they're kind of spoiled in a way because they got so much stuff that they can use. And back then, you know, we only had 2.5 seconds and this and that. So we had to kind of like be more creative with it. So I remember all the old techniques from back then, and then I added to the new stuff.
Yeah, that's what's up. I think that is the balance. That's the positive end of it. When you come from when you knew like it's the 2000 or the MPC 60 or even further back, whatever it was, it's certain techniques you come to know by using those kinds of pieces of gear, and then coming from that era, what the sound was, what it was, and then now it's all this technology. And to be able to blend the two is where the magic is. If you and
it's funny you say that, Corey, because even now when I'm working on production and doing all the new stuff, I don't even understand how a lot of the cats that are doing the new stuff right now could do the things that they're doing without some of the knowledge from the past, you know, because most of the stuff that we apply to the new stuff comes from being in the studio, comes from, you know, the evolution of going from different levels, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, being on an SSL and sitting there, you know, before automation, you know, you have to pan the two channels and you do all that stuff, those different techniques, you know, parallel EQing or parallel mixing, whatever. And you apply that to the software now. It's almost like we're taking that old way of doing things, which I don't even really call it old. I just call it techniques.
It's techniques. Yeah, because you know what though, we in hip hop kind of have that kind of thing though. We people tend to call stuff old or there's this certain way that we address things that kind of go into the ageism realm. Whereas if we were not talking hip hop, it would just be like a recording technique or some kind of technique that originated from whatever it originated from, right? And I ain't gonna even get into the Beatles thing because I don't want to get Ken all riled up.
It's not even old. It's just the fundamentals. Like
fundamentals.
Absolutely. Because even when you were saying Ski, you know, was saying he used the SB 1200 and 950. Everybody knows if you had 950 that the bass. Some people, I think, was it Scratch that originated it, where you took the tone. Tone. You didn't even have a sample in 950. You took the tone and you pitched that bitch down and actually resampled the bass. I still do that with oscillators and synthesis in Ableton and Machine, anything. I could take a tone and then make that tone any instrument I want to make it. You know what I mean? But that came from that 950. Yeah, that's what I learned. Huh?
So what we used to do with the 950, instead of sampling the tone, you plug the MIDI back, you can play the tone.
Yep.
Well, that was definitely one of our makeshift bass sims back in the day. And that bass in the 950 was
crazy. Word. All that Busta Rhymes stuff, the Scratch was, all that stuff came from that tone and woo.
And that is but
we still I still apply that same
too. That is a very distinctive bass tone too.
Absolutely.
That's some of the the stuff that really inspired me too, because you know, coming from a place where I was an MC first for many, 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 many years and running around the streets of Chicago, when I got tired of going, you know, from one side of town to the next side of town, trying to find chemistry with cats, I ended up buying my own MPC and saying, I'm just about to get on my beats. Eventually, beats took precedent over MCing, but you know, that's my foundation. But yeah, that stuff when I started making beats myself was that.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What was your first drum machine? What was your first piece of gear?
SP1200.
What? Oh, you was fancy, nigga. You
Listen though, it's a crazy story because I was in college and well, one of my homeboys, he had an SP1200 and I was in college. And while I was in college, I couldn't really focus because I was always writing rhymes and stuff.
Right.
I told my mom, you know, save you money. I said, what you need to do, if you can get me this SP1200, you know what? I can make it work. So she actually put it on layaway, and I got it, man, and I was hooked on that thing, man. That thing, man. I did so much work on the SP1200. It's crazy.
And I gotta say one thing, and you know, I tell everybody, you were the first dude that I ever seen. I mean, first hip hop, urban, first black man I seen on Ableton. Period, hands down. And I remember watching. And then you were doing some crazy, like you were the first dude I seen making beats, like hip hop beats on Ableton. And I was just blown away, like, yo, what is this dude doing? What is this? Now, how did you get introduced to, because you were the first, you like pioneered like that push for, because when you were using Ableton, cats that were doing hip hop were not using Ableton like that.
Because like, I read the description of what the software was.
Right.
You can take records and you can stretch it and you can get it in time. And I'm like, wait a minute, that means I can sample a song. I can put whoop markers and I can chop it and move it around and make it do what I want to do. I said, yeah, I'm learning this. And
so did someone introduce that to you, or did you like just do the research?
I kept seeing the software and I thought it looked weird. You know, I'm like, yo, because I was using.
It does look weird. It still looks weird.
Right, I was using Pro Tools and what everybody else was using at the time. But I saw it, I thought it looked weird, and I always had like, you know, when you buy like a MIDI controller or something, they will always give you.
Always in it, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I saw it. I said, "Fuck it, let me just see what this thing do, what it does." And then I turned it on, and that was it. I was on it.
Now, how did they reach out to you? Because you were the first dude doing like videos and stuff with them. Like, how did that happen?
I don't even know, man. I think Jesse reached out to me.
Okay.
Shout out to Jesse.
Yeah, shout out to Jesse. That's the homie.
Shout out to Jesse. He reached out to me and just, you know, basically said he liked what I was doing and he wanted to come shoot a video with me. And that's how we got that video.
That was crazy.
I didn't know what. You know what? I just said, yeah, let's do it. You know, I didn't know what.
Like, I don't know what this is gonna be. Let's do it though. You know what? So that's another thing. What somebody in the chat just said, he's the reason I bought Ableton. So that's I'm glad that was like official, that you rocked with them and you know, because that, you know, you inspired people to use it. You know what I mean? For me, I gotta say, Ableton has never really been for me, and I've tried to get in it, and I can make whatever I'm doing on anything else in Ableton, but I think it's just not the environment for me. But you're right, it's mad advanced in a lot of ways.
I feel like Ableton is so close to being what I really want, but at the same time, it still has this distance from feeling like I can do it all right from push, like that, because that's really what I want. Is like I want that hands-on appeal of working with, you know, working with the MPC, working with machine, that kind of stuff. But I want to be able to get those deeper functionalities that aren't in machine, aren't in a MPC, that are in Ableton. But I want them to be fluid in the same way. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, and I think it's getting there. I think the last few updates have really grown. Like, you can actually change your inputs right from the hardware now. Like, that's such a little thing, but it makes such a big workflow difference when you're actually in the lab, like changing things around and sampling from different sources and that kind of thing. Like, I feel like they're on that path to getting to where we want it to be. I just need it to be a little bit more fluid and hands-on, you know?
You know what I love about Ableton as a company is that they really listen to their users, man.
Absolutely.
You know, everything I ever wanted, they always figured out a way to make it happen, man. You know? So I wouldn't be surprised if Ableton's You're gonna hit us with something cool. They got to.
So let me ask you this, Ski. How did you go from, because Ableton is so advanced, and then you went to working with Machine? Like, how did you? What made you switch up? Like, what made you go from that to that? Like, you know what I'm saying?
The reason I switched to Machine at that time was because of what really caught me with Machine. One of my friends gave me a machine.
Okay.
Sat in my studio for like a year.
Oh, man.
It was plastic. You know what I'm saying? It was kind of light. It was plastic. I had an MPC 2500. I'm like, yo, man, this is a toy. What is this? Plugged it up. You know, I like learning about new shit. So I plugged it up, checked out the software, and I sat down with it for a couple of hours, and I just kind of figured it out. I was like, oh, okay, I see how this works. I like the whole copy pad function. I saw I could chop samples quicker, yada, 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 yada. And I could basically get the same sound I was getting from my MPC with it. So I rocked with it, you know, and it was super small. And it was, and I had to plug it in the wall.
Right. True.
Yeah, that portability and all of that kind of changed the game.
Definitely.
Yeah. That's what's up. So let me ask you. So like, okay, so getting back, so you was rocking the SP1200, and then you went to what? Were you still rocking the SP1200 by the time you did Uptown Saturday Night?
I did All Regional Doubt with the SP1200. I did all of Uptown Saturday Night with the MPC 3000.
Okay. Yeah. Word. Listen.
What was the cause for the change there? Was it just you? So are you just constantly going to new gear just because you're interested in the gear, or is it that's just what was available to you at the time, or what?
A little bit of both, man. Plus, you know, when after I did Reasonable Doubt, they had gave me a ton of bread. So I said, yo, I'm about to give me a 3000 because that shit.
They gave me a ton of bread. I'm about to go to the store.
You know, if you know me, you know that I'm a motherfucking gearhead. I love to learn shit. Always like to learn because I get bored quick with shit.
Get the wood panels on everything, Ski. Everything.
I got the wood panels on my X, right?
I see you. I
saw it the other day too. I saw it the other day. And you know what? People were hating on those wood panels. Not from the picture that you put up, but I seen other people hating on it. And I'm like,
but
I kind of dig it.
Picture,
like
the initial picture. I'm be real though. This is not. It's just the initial picture with the white background or whatever it was. I don't know what it was, but the initial picture from MPC stuff, I'm like, I ain't digging that. Then I saw Skis in the context of sitting in.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, all right, that looks dope. Not like what I thought initially though.
Man, my shit look like furniture right now, nigga. My shit is dope.
right. That's what's up. Straight up, man. Hey, so like that's another thing though. I'm a firm believer in when gear looks good, it's inviting, it's inspiring.
Right.
Now, can I ask this real quick? Like, I remember, I think Ski and I, we had a conversation. You might not even remember, but I remember you were like, yo, man, I'm going to go to DubSpot and I'm going to start digging into the synthesis stuff. And I remember the day that we had that conversation, and then to see you doing what you're doing now is just inspirational. I want to put that out there, period.
Wow.
And I mean, as you can see his setup back there, he got the modular stuff lit in the back. But I remember you were doing the machine stuff and you were like, yo, I'm about to do this. And you actually, and I'm sharing this with people because you're one of the top, you're legendary. And so for you to go and say, you know what, I'm gonna go to DubSpot and I'm gonna go learn from people and I'm gonna go and educate myself about stuff. It's inspiring that even with all the information you've had over the years and all the records and experience, you still are always the consummate student. I'm the same way. You know what I'm saying? Like,
you gotta be that.
What made you say, you know what? I'm gonna go and sit with this dude or that dude or whoever, or if you even sat with anyone to start learning synthesis. What made you feel like you wanted to do that?
Because back in the day, I had a what's that thing? SC1. Remember the SC1?
Oh, from Studio Electronics.
Come on, man.
Mm-hmm.
I had an SC1. And I saw all of these words and terminologies and things I had no idea what it was, and I always wanted to use it, and I could only get one bass sound out of it. So I ended up selling it. I got rid of it because I didn't know what it was, and I told myself, I got to learn about creating sounds. I got to learn about, synthesis. I got to learn about sine waves and filters and LFOs. I got to know what this stuff is. I need to know because it's always been just bugging me in the back of my brain, like, yo, dude, learn this stuff. But I thought, when you first think about it, you think it's like something that's going to be overwhelming and it's going to be a lot of math and you're going to be like, nah, I can't do this. You know what I'm saying? It's going to take my creativity. It's going to take away from me just going hard. But it didn't. It actually enhanced what I was doing. You feel me? Being able to create your own whatever is dope. Like, that's my sound. You can't have my sound because that's my sound. Once I put these cables, it's over. You don't get that sound.
That's kind of the same thing with me, Skeeter. The big thing about it is that one is like, you just want to go somewhere else and be able to kind of identify your own thing. And then, like, you can't use that sound because once I unplug it, I might not be able to get back to it. You know what I'm saying? And that's what's dope. Like with modular synthesis specifically, you can have a bunch of the same stuff. Like, we could have a bunch of the same modules and our sounds are still going to be different. And then my push with it was that, like, I want to do this because I want to push the envelope a little bit in hip hop. And it can still be just as dope as anything by incorporating modular synthesis into what I'm already doing. You know what I mean?
I'm gonna be honest, you and Ski are the only two guys. I mean, outside of like Rich Divine and a bunch of other sound designers, but in terms of hip hop, like what you guys are doing with synthesis is its own genre, bro.
That's why I call it mod bap. That's what's up.
B-Boy Tech is the inventor of mod bap.
Yeah,
I used to go to B-Boy Tech's page and watch him do, like, he was taking drum sounds and making him do things. I'm like, yo, how is he doing this?
Right?
You're definitely inspiration. You're like one of the reasons why I started. And my man, I don't know his real name, but Voltage Control on
Shiro.
Yeah, Shiro's dope.
Yeah,
shout out to Shiro, man. We got to get him on the show too.
Yeah.
You
guys are definitely the originators and the inventors of it. You feel me?
I remember when I first started getting the modular stuff, I was talking to St. Joe at soundsandgear.com, right? So I was talking to Joe and I was saying to Joe, I was like, yo, I really want to get into modular. Like, this is years ago. And I was like, man, I really want to do it, but it's a serious investment. And he was like, man, come on, just do it. And I was like, I thought about it for a while and I was like, man, I don't see anybody using it in a hip hop context. And he was just like, man, make that your lane. And I was like, you know what? I think I'll start doing it. So I got a small case. I got like, I think I started out with 3 modules total. Like, and that was 3 modules over the course of like 3 months, a module a month. Cause I ain't rich. So I started hooking that up, man. I hooked it up to Machine and I got a little MIDI going. And next thing you know, like sampling up beats and making beats like that. And then I was talking to Corey and Corey was like, man, I think I'm gonna get that.
Yeah.
Corey stepped in like a boss and was just like, yo, all right, I'm gonna get that, and then I'm gonna get this wood grain case. He got this Art for the Ears case that was like,
it was dope. That's my
dude, that case is so dope. Like, shout out to Art for the Ears, man, because
I feel like that's like when you feel like you get your first car. You be like, yo, my first car, even though it's an 86 Pontiac Sunbird, you come up to the spot like, nigga, look.
Corey stunning.
I
remember when you got that, and I was just like, man, come on.
Yo, Corey, I feel this. I trust me, I feel the same way. I was talking to Ski probably last month, and we didn't even talk that long, and I was like, man, Ski, I ain't got no modular stuff. I don't got nothing. He was like, man, you just start with one piece. Just start with one piece, right? And then so now I got the Mother 32, and I'm just like, yeah.
That's that gateway drug.
I got the Mother 32, but I'm feeling myself and I'm looking at it like, and it's just one little piece. I was like, okay.
You know what? I see why they call it Euro crack, because I started with the Mother 32,
right?
And I got the Zero Coast, and I started plugging them together. I'm like, oh, this is crazy. Then I said, I'm gonna get one case. No, I said I'm gonna get one skiff.
Right. One little rope, right?
You know what? And now I got to get a case like you guys now, because I want more modules. Because you know what I love about modules, man? Because it's like you're thinking about one idea, like I'm gonna make this, do this, and do that. And as soon as you plug that bitch up, it does something
different that you couldn't even thought of if you would have tried to think.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, now, but your setup looking crazy over this. See, I want something small like that. I'm not trying to be like Corey in the Nebuchadnezzar or anything like that. I'm trying
Hey, Stoney, here's the deal. Here's the deal. So Ski's getting ready to get new case, a big full new case. Like he might not know it, but he is gonna get it.
Right.
I'm gonna make him.
Of
But he's
course.
gonna get a real like a real producer's case soon. So that case is gonna be unused. Like
Listen,
I'm just saying.
I'm trying to shoot my shot right now, bro. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to shoot my shot.
I'm donating to you. Don't worry about it. I got you. But you know, it's just man. It's so much more fulfilling than. And I'm not taking any. Matter of fact, let me just make this disclaimer. I love sampling. I'm obviously a sample-based producer. But I've been sampling since '86. So I'm tired of sampling records. I'm tired of digging and dropping needles. You feel me? And this whole modular thing just gave me like a second burst of like, yo, I love it.
Right.
I want to make a beat. Like it was times where I just sit down with records. You know, sometimes it takes forever to find one little sample that you want to use. If the next time you're tired, you're going to sleep. I'll do it tomorrow, like, you know?
Right.
I want to plug that shit up. I want to get some ideas going quick. You feel me? The modular definitely helps you get that.
And I was going to ask
about
you
that is also that you can use the modular like in so many different ways. Like I try to tell people, in all honesty, like, yo, it's cool to have a ton of cash and just drop like $3,500 on a nice modular system right out the gate. But if you do it the way that I did it, where like I got a single module at a time, you learn to use that module in ways that you wouldn't normally learn how to use it. There's so many ways to use like a filter that you wouldn't even think of. You can use a filter to slew your CV as a glide. You know what I mean? Like these are kinds of things that like maybe if I wasn't broke, I wouldn't know about. You know what I'm saying?
You know, Ken, when we initially got into this, when like I remember you was doing, I was like, yo, I'm gonna jump into modular. Then I remember you gave me the advice. You was like, yo, one module at a time. And I was like, got you, one module at a time. And then 2 months later, it was like 20 modules at a time.
But I also remember at the same time, we were having conversations back then and you were like, man, I don't even have time to learn every single module right now. Like I'm just patching it up. And like, don't get me wrong, it sounded dope either way, but it's like, man, there's so much. It's such a rabbit hole as far as how much you can actually learn.
But
because
you know what?
You can mess with a plugin. You can mess with a plugin for so long and learn a ton about synthesis from a plugin. But when you start actually patching the signal flow yourself, you learn so much so fast.
But you know what, Ken? You know what, Ken? That speaks to production in general. That's like, you know, when you meet, because we meet a bunch of people that ask us about gear and stuff like that. And somebody will say to me, yo, I bought the machine, I bought the push, I got the MPC live. And I'm like, man, you bought all three of those things at the same time? That's crazy. Like, I mean, one piece a year. One piece a year. I would tell a cat, yo, don't even go to the next piece until you know the first one first. It's the same thing. It's like having way too much too soon. There's no way you're going to figure it all out.
So in my case, I'll tell you what was cool about me, because I do the B-Boy Tech Report. What was cool about that is going to NAMM, and then I saw Pittsburgh Modular, and I met those guys there. And they had the System 90 or something, and it had the DNA module in there. It was like symbiotic DNA module. So it was a digital module, like an 8-bit sort of digital module, and it was crazy. So they sent me the system to review. And good Jesus, I kept that system for like 8 months. And you know, as soon as I plugged it in, I knew it was a wrap. I was like, oh man. So that was my first little modular setup, and it was a skiff. And it kind of blew my mind. And when I started looking at it, is like, you know, I worked on for a while becoming better at sampling in general, and sampling, chopping. It's your craft. You work on getting better at it. But then I started getting sort of like what you said, Ski, not to take anything away from it, but I kind of felt like I wasn't, I felt like I can go a little bit further, like, you know what I mean? Like without being confined, because you can get creative with anything. But then I started looking at synthesis and modular synthesis like it was vinyl. You know what I'm saying? Like these are just sounds. I could use all the same techniques that I've come up on and start to do a whole new thing. You know what I'm saying? And then the effects part of modular, where you can start routing stuff out of the sampler, out of the drum machines into that joint and creating all new sounds. It's crazy from that point.
Plus is more fulfilling because it's coming from you.
Yeah,
for
you
real.
created it right from start to finish.
Now let me ask you something, Ski. Did you ever use Reactor or Reactor blocks?
Totally. That was one of the courses that you had to learn when I took that thing at DubSpot. So I definitely know about blocks. I definitely know about Reactor.
Now, how did you feel? Like once you, because I'm curious, because I'm going through the same transition right now from the software version of things to the hardware. How did you feel? Like what were like the pros and cons of like going from the software? Like what do you like about the software and don't like versus the actual physical aspect of it?
Yeah, what I liked about the software was the software basically taught me how to patch. You know what I'm saying? Blocks will teach you what a CV is. It'll teach you how to, your control functions. It'll teach you how to shit.
Right.
But to have the actual module and you picking up chords and doing this, you actually engage with some shit. Like you engage with actual electricity. Nothing beat.
Yeah, that's right.
Clicking the mouse is, that's kind of boring. Fuck that. I want to touch the chord. I want to plug it in. I want to turn the knob. I want to do it myself. I want to feel it.
And then it's next level too, because when you get to doing all that, and like you said, some stuff will come out like the wildness, the controlled wildness almost of it is kind of inspiring to me. Like you get into a place where you like, I know why that's doing that. I might not know why this is doing that, but together it's kind of crazy. Then when I threw the MPC into the mix and being able to have that the clocking and the timing, you know what I mean?
Keep going.
Yeah. So being able to clock and time things and keep things in sync, but then still have some of that randomness of the modular in there. That's
right.
For me, the random stuff is where things can get really interesting, and I'm really happy that you look at the popularity that modulars gained, and it's rubbing off on a lot of standalone and software as well. Like you're starting to see a lot of modular stuff that's popular in that community coming into as features for drum machines and whatnot. You look at things like the drum root, having random right on it. You're starting to see these kinds of techniques are making their way into more mainstream pieces of gear.
I mean, look at the X. The X has CV on it.
Yeah,
no doubt. And I personally believe that like modular isn't necessarily for everybody in every application. Like to me, like, it's dope for what it is, but at the same time, it can also slow people down. You know what I mean? Like it depends on what you're after and what you want. So the fact that a lot of standalone gear now and software is taken from that, and you're seeing a lot of that aspect in it, is a really great thing, because now you don't have to have, 15 grand worth of modular gear to get a lot of that same action going on these days, whereas before you might not have even had an opportunity to it.
It speaks to that whole thing. Like when you think about semi-modular things, like I'm gonna lock the camera on you, Ken, because you got the matrix brute with all that modular interfacing on it. Then there's things like the neutron, so and the mother 32 and all that, right? So and then the things like the mini brute 2S2 or whatever it is, 2S, and the mini brute 2, like those things are like opening up new worlds for people. Like, and you don't even have to go all the way modular and go through the rabbit hole, but there's something that's so dope about being able to take a piece of gear and plug it in and out and see how the sound changes. Once you start to see, like there's a thing about learning and a thing about sort of passion between what you think and what you touch, right? When a person's learning to write and they're writing, that's why they say when you write stuff, you learn it better. I feel like it's the same thing with modular, whereas I had sense and I'm like, I sort of get what an LFO is. I sort of understand what this and that is doing. But when I start taking my hands and patching those cables into a thing and hearing the sound between the brain and the actual touch of it is what made me start to get it and understand it.
Now, Corey, here's the crazy thing. For me, I actually, what you're describing, the way that I feel about audio engineering, I know this is gonna sound crazy, but like when I got on an SSL and you had like your outboard gear, you got your compressors and your limiters and everything, and Ski could actually speak to this too because he understands it. When you're taking those patch cables and you're on an SSL board and you have to take a microphone and bring it to the compressor and bring it out and then bring it to a limiter and then actually physically put the chain of effects in like with the wires, with the cables. It changes. It changes how you like. So when I started mixing and doing things in Pro Tools and you start seeing plugins, like now you get a plugin, you just drop a plugin on the channel. You know what I'm saying? As opposed to, you know, if you're on an SSL and you're in a real recording studio, you have to actually patch that stuff in. It's very different when you're patching it in and then you're in front of a 1176 and you're actually dialing those parameters in. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of
our mixed experience.
Yeah, you're experiencing it. You actually, you know what a 1176, you know, you actually plugged in a U47 and let it warm up so you can hear the difference. But when I had those patch cables and, you know, you're sitting in front of an SSL and you're like, okay, so how am I gonna, you know, what am I gonna use for these vocals? How am I gonna cut these vocals? You literally have to physically do it. And that's how I feel about like the modular stuff. It's that feeling where you can go in and actually, you know what you're doing. You're not guessing by just randomly dropping a plugin on a track and hoping that it does what it's supposed to do. You actually know what to dial in instead of using presets.
You know what's dope? You know what's dope? What I like is now I can kind of like have it in my head and I can kind of know how to do it. Like when you see the level where you kind of know how to do it.
Right.
Know exactly what's going on with your equipment. It's like some other shit. It's like a mind.
Oh yeah. That's a high.
Yeah.
That's when you really on it. Like when you can really plug up and you can make exactly happen what you want to happen. It's like it's a euphoric sort of thing. I feel you on that. That's real. Hey, let me jump into this. I want to ask something because there's something else about this whole beat making culture that we all exist in, and you know, the internet kind of helped provide new opportunities for producers and beat makers that didn't really exist before. And I feel like there's a shift in the culture. There's a paradigm shift where back in the day, and I'm looking at this, I got this this painting by Justin Bua. It's not the actual painting, it's a print. Justin Bua is a dope artist, and it's a DJ picture where he got the label of the record blanked out, right? So that's cultural in hip hop and in DJ culture where cats didn't want to be telling you the breaks and stuff that they was using in the records they was using, the samples they was using, unless you was tight, like, you know, Pete Rock and Q-Tip and Large Professor would probably share with each other because they fam. But ultimately, you wasn't sharing samples and all that. Nowadays, the internet is here in this beat making culture and how we all kind of get down online and all this stuff. Now there's this flip to now we're selling sample packs. And you know what I'm saying? It's like there's this whole culture that's a shift. Like how you feel about, and I know you sell sample packs and make sample packs and stuff too. How you feel about that shift and where we are right now as a beat making culture with that kind of thing?
I mean, you know, obviously we're living in the age where you can share everything. And I think it's dope, man. I don't knock it because, you know, I remember, man, when I was coming up, you know, I had to reach out to producers like Clark Kent and other producers who gave me sounds, you know what I'm saying? Just on the strength because it was family. And, you know, it's always cool, man. It's just a cool thing to share, man. It's to share things, you know? And if you can get paid at the same time while you're sharing, why not? You feel me?
That's what's up. So I think that's the key though, right? Like it's the sharing age. So I'm cool with it like that. But I definitely noticed that there was a huge shift from like, yo, I can share this with everybody versus like keep it to yourself. But then it was a different kind of environment.
Well, we're living in the information age, baby. Everybody's getting that information.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. That's what's up. So what's the name of your? Is it Sound Block? Is that your?
That's my company. When I'm selling sounds, it's Sound Block.
Right. Okay. And what's up with the backpack? Because I like that you do merchandise like that too. How'd you come to the sound pack?
Yeah, my girl, I was telling her I needed a bag to carry my stuff in because, you know, she makes bags and shoes and stuff like that.
Okay.
She said, "Oh, I can make you a bag." So she started with this little keyboard bag she made for me, which was cool. And I said, "I need something for my machine. I need something for my machine." And so she started designing the bag, and I had an old MPC pad laying around that wasn't in MPC. She dropped it on the material and said, "What you think about that?" I'm like, "Can you do that?" You feel me?
Word. That's what's up. That's dope.
So what's up? So are you guys gonna make some bags and some cases for the modular stuff?
Oh no, I should ask him.
He like, that's a good idea. That's what's up. Hey, so and so have you always done like sound design? Like, I think we have talked on this show before. All of us, I think, by kind of, it's just a natural thing to sound design, right? Like, most of us are sound designing while we're producing. It's a part of the process. I remember the first time I was on the show with Ken, he was asking about something similar to that, and I was like, yeah, I just kind of think of it as part of the process. You kind of, just like you're crafting this sound of the beat that you're doing or production that you're doing, those sounds kind of get crafted along with that process, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I kind of feel like, you know, I was always sound designing, even if I didn't know it. Like, I was putting things like in a MPC 3000, you know, I was using the attack and the decay and the filters and using the LFOs and stuff. Not really not knowing what it really was, but I was using it. You feel me? That was kind of like my little introduction, I guess, to sound design at the time. And I didn't know I was sound designing.
Yeah.
And you know, the dope thing about sound designing and creating your own sounds, it definitely sharpens your ear when you start mixing your records, because you be fucking with frequencies so much.
Yeah.
You know how your shit's supposed to sound. You know how to move things around. You using like you're using filters. You know, it's all relevant, man. It all relates.
Yeah, it is. It's all good. So, all right, Stoney, when you gonna drop off in this this modular world? What we gonna have to do to get you there?
Come on, Stoney.
First of all, see, I got the Mother 32.
You getting in?
You know, I got Ski's new case. You know, I got the pieces in the garage that Corey's been saving for me. You know.
Oh,
yeah, so one thing I'll say about that is when you were digging for records, right? Because I think all of us in here enjoy digging for records, period. Like, you know, whether you use it that much in your albums these days, you know, is another story. But I still enjoy digging for sounds. I like the process of it, right? But back in the day, I used to dig for records, and you remember the old records, especially like from the 70s and before, it would list what instruments were on there. Like, you could literally read ARP 2600 is like right on the like, they would tell you exactly what instruments were being used. I used to read those records like, oh man, I wish I could have that synthesizer. Man, I wish he did this with it. Imagine what I could do if I had that in my hands. So that's kind of where the whole modular thing started for me, because I used to sample like Subotnick records and, you know, just going through a lot of that stuff. You would, you know, even Earth, Wind and Fire, like you would see.
I miss those days, man. I miss being able to read what they used.
Yeah. You don't get to see that stuff that much these days. However, you do get YouTube videos and get to see Corey Henry going to town and what.
That dude is nuts.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, to me, that's like the younger generation. They got to be looking at Corey Henry and saying, "Oh, he's using a King Korg on this, or he's using, you know, the Sub Fatty on that." Like, you know what I mean? Like, they got to be watching that. At least if they're smart, I would, you know, because I do.
You know what? I'm gonna tell you. Just the other day, I was interacting with Peter Brown on Instagram because I noticed Peter Brown followed me on Instagram. I was like, I noticed that the actual guy, Peter Brown. You know what I'm saying? Do you want to get funky with me?
Wow.
You know? Right. So I looked up and I said, yo, is this Peter Brown? He was like, yeah, that's me. And I was like, bruh, I actually bought a ARP Odyssey because of you. Because Peter Brown, that album, For Your Love, like, if you look up Peter Brown, For Your Love, and just listen to that joint. In '98, me and my dudes was about to, we sampled that and made a joint with it back in Chicago. And just the flavor of it was next. And I always, like, that was such a sample heavy joint. And he tells you, I use an ARP axe or whatever it is. He used to represent ARP back in the day. But just that flavor, the way it sounded, and I knew, like, I liked that song so much that I knew I was like, I'm gonna have to buy ARP. So that, like, the inspiration of that, knowing what that sound was, is next level, man.
The thing that got me was Herbie. Like
Herbie is a monster.
Like Watermelon Man, like, man, I remember hearing those records and I was just like, because my dad didn't really listen to it, but like the records were in the house, and man, I was just like, oh my God, this is so different. Like, I need that. Like, what is that? I remember the first time really recognizing what a spring reverb was, because on some old experimental records, they would use like tape loops and spring reverbs. And I was just like, that stuff sounds crazy. Like,
and we'd be remiss to like leave Stevie Wonder out of that.
Of course.
Yeah, for real.
Of course.
Tonto, come on.
Are you kidding me? Like,
yo, you know what I
Tonto
love?
synthesizer alone was like,
Yeah.
when I saw that, I was like, I need to live there.
Hey, so what was that? What was that? It's a documentary that where the dudes that made Tonto, they were talking about how they put out that record, some kind of weird record. It was like, yo, we wasn't even sure it was music. It was the early 70s, and it was just some weird experimental stuff, and we put it out. And he said a couple months later, Stevie Wonder came knocking at the studio with their record under his arm, and he was like, show me how y'all did them sounds. And yo, 10 years or something, they was in the studio nonstop making all the classics we love. Now, when I fast forward that, I kind of look at Mod Bap as the natural progression of where it was already. It's like,
right.
You know what I'm saying? It's just, that's what it is.
Yeah, but at the same time, you made it cool. You made it cool to use modular in hip hop.
Well, yeah.
You guys are making it really cool, because a lot of times people associate it with noise.
Right.
That's my problem with it. That was one of my big issues with modular, was at the time that I first got into it.
Hey, Ken, thanks for cutting me off, man.
Oh, I did it again, right?
I gotta you know, we had the conversation this morning about your behavior.
No,
right?
I brought the conversation.
I
said you better be. Listen, Tony, I told you. I said you better be stronger. Cut you off. That's your fault.
Listen, hold on, look, I ain't broke Beatz, boy. Okay, I'm just playing. I digress.
I know. Yeah. So, shout out to ADD. What's up? So what I was saying though, I don't remember. But
no, we were talking about synthesis. But real quick, now correct me on the Cosby Show. Was that a Pugla song that Stevie Wonder had on the show?
Oh, with baby.
Yeah, I don't know. Was that a Pugla song, or was that a what keyboard was that? You guys know what show I'm talking about.
Yeah, the episode where Stevie Wonder was on the Cosby Show, and they went to the studio, and he sampled all their voices and was like, you know, triggering the samples of them.
What you say, Steve?
Drop it on them.
Drop it on. Yeah, exactly. baby, right.
Baby, that was crazy.
right. Was it a Fairlight? Maybe it was a Fairlight. Chaz B in the chat said maybe it was a Fairlight. I don't know.
Hey, let me cut anybody off who's about to talk, because I literally like went back and watched so that I could remember what I was talking about. What Stoney was saying was that a lot of it was noise, and that was one of the things that made me want to make modular music, hip hop music, because I was sampling the Subotnick stuff that like dude, Silver Apples on the Moon was dope. But I was like, man, there's not really like a lot of like cool backbeat going on. Like, that's not what kind of music it was, but I was using it in that way. So when I got into the modular, I was like, I wanted to not make just crickets and bug noise. You know what I mean? Right. I wanted to actually make crickets and bug noise, but then sample it so that it's rhythmic and use it in my beats. And I think it was when I was doing that kind of stuff, and Corey and I were talking, and Corey was like, yo, I'm gonna start. Because Corey actually coined the phrase mod bap. Like, I remember the conversation that we had about it, and Corey was like, "Yo, I'm gonna start calling this mod bap." I was like, "All right, dude."
It was a couple things that happened. I started using a lot of synths before I got into a lot of modular, and so I was doing synth bap, and I put out I put out an album called Synth Bap, and I still actually have a couple volumes to do that to fulfill what my initial thing was with that, but. Synth bap, but then when I got into modular, it just naturally kind of made sense to call it mod bap, and because it always has that boom bap sensibility in what we're trying to do. And Shiro is actually somebody, I think he put out a couple records. He may be one of the first people I know of that put out records, but it was like the phrase hadn't really been coined yet. So Shiro, what I love though,
for real, and
I shout out. Upright,
which is a problem. Like, yo,
Mhm.
Upright, there needs to be like a Kickstarter campaign or something to get Upright putting out new albums, because like he was killing it too. And it was, all this stuff was done in a way that I personally feel like a lot of the modular community is way too far up its own ass, like way too far up its own ass. Like they're doing things where like if you're using samplers along with your modular, they're like, okay, well, that's not modular music, and you know, it has to be strictly modular, and if it's outside of your rack, that's not okay. And like,
but you get that too on the hip hop side too.
Yeah,
like
no
cats
doubt.
will look at the any kind of too much synth and too much modular, and cats will be like, yo, that ain't real, that ain't hard though. But
I'm just
my thing is like, I think you can make them joints coexist.
I'm like, look, dude,
You know
it's
what I mean?
another tool in the studio. Like, why are you trying to act like it's not?
Yo, Kim, look, you think Technique turntables, you think they wanted motherfuckers to go on their shit when
Right.
they
Boom.
Well, I have heard rumors, and I'm not going to say any specifics, but I've heard rumors of specific modular manufacturers not being especially happy about the hip hop community adopting modular. So
Really?
Oh, I know that. Actually, I know that there's certain
that's
people
because we
out
talk.
there.
What do you guys
Yeah,
think
because we
that
talk.
is?
There's
What
certain
is
people
that?
out there that look down on that. Like that's why I look at it like this. Hip hop has always taken stuff that wasn't meant for us to use and making it into what we do. That's the culture. So
That's it.
good luck. Whatever you invent, if it do something that one of us start to think is cool, good luck.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, that's the way you gotta look at it.
Mm-hmm. This is how hip hop is. I mean, hip hop is an amalgamation of a lot of things, man. Like you said, the turntable wasn't invented for you to be pushing and pulling it back and forth like that. You know what I mean? And Flash went out and basically made a crossfader because he had electronic background of some sort. You know what I'm saying? And
So can I ask you guys a quick question though? Is it the reason why they feel negative about it? Is it a cultural thing?
They're snobby. They're
yeah.
Really?
culture.
Mm-hmm.
Why are they like that? Why? What kind of? What is that?
Hey, Stoney, just to give you perspective, right? When I started it, it took me months to even get started because there was no like easy to read anything about cases, about power supplies, like about how to hook it all up. And keep in mind, like where I'm at, there wasn't any modular store just right down the street. You know, you couldn't just go in and be like, oh, let me mess with this. So as I went through it, I documented my process. I put up like an intro to Eurorack thing on my website to help people out, because I was like, dude, you shouldn't have to go through this. And reading on like Muff Wiggler's forum, there was a lot of people who felt that the barrier to entry, the complicated aspect of power and cases, and granted, it's not that complicated, but if you've never done it before, if you've never even seen it or touched it, it's confusing. And they thought that was a good thing. They thought this barrier to entry prevents people from getting into this culture that we don't like. That's honestly that's a legit, it's not even hidden. Like it was a very prominent theme throughout forums and people that I talked to, and because I was hitting up people left and right, like, look, I want to get into this, but I don't have money to burn and fail. You know what I mean? Like I have to, if I spend money, I have to succeed, because dude, that's my money. Like that's bills. I got kids.
You work hard for your money. No matter what it is you do for work, you work hard for your money. That money got there, you won't just blow it.
The culture has gotten the Eurorack and modular culture has gotten a lot better since then, but it still has a long way to go.
Well, and then too, I gotta say, like, okay, so
is it an older culture? Is it like older?
You know, so I would jump out and say that, hey, it's a suburban middle class white guy thing. Which I would say by and large it more than likely is. That being said, there's definitely like plenty of minorities that are involved, but it's like these very small communities, and they don't like to it's almost like, so if you go into a producer forum and somebody asks a basic question and you get a lot of RTFM and people like cussing people out because, hey, you know, you should have known this, but it's newbies just trying to learn. Like this is not, you know, this isn't national security we're dealing with. This is people trying to have fun and create. You know, so the fact that even though there are like minorities and there are females, you know, in the modular scene, even they were a part of this barrier to entry aspect. Like it's an elitism that just, I think it's part of like, hey, I had to go through this struggle, so now you have to. Now, granted, there were other people that were certainly friendly and helpful, but it was definitely a prevailing theme that I kept running into, you know?
I'm gonna tell you though, too, I don't really see it as much different than the way I felt when certain acts took hip hop and made it commercial. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if it's much different than that. There's something that you feel, you know, some ownership to, and things that resonate with you, because before we knew it was called hip hop, we was in, no matter where you was, whether it was New York or Chicago or North Carolina or Philly or wherever you was, certain things that was happening in the hood at a certain time was later started to be called hip hop. But then, so there's this kinship and this love and this cultural sort of thing that happens that you come to be very familiar with, and you just have a passion for it. Then when MC Hammer shows up, you know what I'm saying, and starts watering things down, and not to take anything away from Hammer, because when you look back, that was a certain milestone that hip hop needed. But you know, it's not very different than that whole thing that happened in hip hop. We you know, we'll look down our nose like, get that whack shit out of here. Nobody want to hear that. That ain't real. You know what I'm saying? And I think it's the same thing. So flip the script and put it in modular. This has been Modular Cat's scene for however many years it was, and it was a little known fact, and all the great things and beautiful things about it. It is what it is. But then when other people start coming in and doing it and using it differently than whatever has been used traditionally, then that can be a sore spot for a lot of people. So I don't see it as very different than what happened in other things.
I mean, you could talk about inside the community. They have these ridiculous things that were going on at that same time. I see it less now, but at that same time, there were people that were angry about digital modules in modular. Like,
yeah, right. It had to be analog too, right?
yeah. It was like it's got to be analog. It's got to be this. It's got to be that. Like there was just a lot of like nitpicking and bullshit that would go out through these communities. And I think, you know, I mean, that's fine if you want to close yourself off to the world. Like if that's the way you want to live your life, that's cool. But just, you know, don't come at me with it, because I'm gonna blow you wide open. Like, you know what I mean?
Especially if there's whiskey involved, right, Ken?
I might smack somebody.
All right. So what's out there though? That I'm just gonna switch it a little bit for anything. Is there any gear out there that we're excited about right now? Who's excited about something that might? I know I want to get my hands on the grandmother.
The grandmother, yeah. I'm definitely excited about that piece. It looks crazy.
I definitely want to check it out. Have you?
What? I'm sorry, guys. What did you say?
He's talking grandmother.
The grandmother, the mold grandmother.
Oh, yeah, that looks fire.
Yeah. It looks like the and I feel like this is the third show in a row that this came up, Ken? It may be.
Yeah, but I'm not going to speak on it anymore, because like let me say this though. This is kind of off topic from that, but in dealing with the fact that it has a spring reverb and I have the basic synth architecture that's already in there, so I don't really need one. But today, like I rearranged part of my rack already, and I put the Magneto in my different case, and the Magneto has a digital spring reverb. Well, I put it in there I put it in right here, and I have a spring reverb right here, like a real spring reverb right there. And I was like, man, I wonder how well they did that. Like, you know, granted, like it's not like they're modeling the spring reverb directly off of my spring reverb, but I'm wondering, like, how close is it?
Keep talking, keep it going, Ken. I'm gonna step away just for a second. Keep going.
Yeah, I don't tend to talk very much, so that's gonna be hard. So what I did was I set up a patch, and I was sending stuff through the real spring reverb and through the Magneto at the same time, and switching back and forth, like blending between the two and tweaking them. Now, granted, my real spring reverb has it has a tone control on it, so you can make it brighter or darker, and it's got a pretty large spring on it. I forget exactly how long it is. I want to say it's like 15 inches or something like that. But anyway, the freaking spring reverb on the Magneto is almost identical to my spring reverb. It's so close. that if you close your eyes and I say, all right, which one is which, you're likely not going to be able to pick between the two. The spring reverb sounds that accurate. So I was really impressed by that.
All right, so yo, check this out.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Is that
It's some of my favorite joints. I got some records, right? This is dope. Sun Ra.
Sun Ra, all Sun Ra. Give it to me.
Right. I love this Johnny Guitar Watson has always been a favorite. I mean, look how ill that cover is. That's craziness.
That's crazy.
Dude, is that a cardboard box that they dressed up like a Cadillac, yo?
Like a go-kart.
It's like a go-kart. But now I'm getting to something here. All these things, I've sampled all these things. Stevie Wonder presents Sarita.
Oh, yeah, I got that.
Yo, there's some gems on there, yo. This is good music. But I'm getting to something when I started digging into stuff that was different from any of the soul music and jazz and stuff. When I started digging into stuff like this,
switched on
Bach, right? When I started digging into stuff like that, then there's a whole, I mean, was Morton and Subotnick? There's a whole bunch of stuff that's out there. It's like this changed the game, and it was a signal for like that electronic instruments and synthesizers can be used to make real music. Now, y'all know what I'm getting at, right? This goes back to this whole mod bap conversation and talking about how we could use synthesis to kind of uplift or take stuff to another level, or just to kind of breathe new life into something that we already doing. So that brings me to Switched On, the new Switched On. Let's talk about Switched On BAP.
Yes.
BAP. Switched On BAP.
Word. That's dope. Is that a sticker or a button?
Sticker.
Okay, I'm gonna have to get some of those, man. But so let's talk about the Switched On BAP, Ski. What's just get into it. Switched On BAP. Tell the people about it.
Well, basically, obviously, it's a play off Switched On Bach. I definitely have the same Switched On Bach album you got. Wendy Carlos, man, you know, back in the 60s, he was a musician who, when synthesizers came out, when modular synthesizers came out, you know, he wanted to create a classical album using those sounds, and he did it. And that's how he, you know, came up with Switched On Bach. And so, you know, I was trying to come up with a title for my album. And I'm like, well, you know what? I'm basically taking modular synthesizers and, you know, just doing some hip hop with it. So just call it Switched On BAP. And it worked good with the whole mod BAP, you know, energy.
Yeah, no doubt. That's what's up. I think it's going to be a dope project from what I can hear. And listen, when's it drop? Is it next month?
July 6th.
July 6th. Dope. How long you been working on that joint?
Man, not too long. You know what? I made the album while learning how to actually operate the modular. So
that's what's up.
You know, I was learning how to work it. Then I was making the beats at the same time. Then I would just save the beats and just keep doing it. And then I turned around and said, well, yo, I got a couple of beats. I should just turn this into a project. And that's what happened.
Dope. So
that's
here's
dope.
the thing. It feels like almost stream of consciousness, because I do know, like, you know, as we started to see you kind of jump into modular and incorporate it into it, and it was like a stream of consciousness. You can kind of tell, like, as this kind of was developing and you know, as you got deeper into it, like, you know what I mean, and it kind of developed like that. So that's dope.
I got angry when I saw the title.
Hello.
I got angry when I saw that title because I was like, man, I should have thought of that.
I think the dopest part about it is that it's so organic, you know, like it's not this contrived, made up, yo, I'm gonna, you know what I mean? Like the fact that you did it as you were organically doing it naturally, that to me is when your best stuff comes out. When you're not thinking and you're feeling it, people are gonna feel your shit immediately, like, what did you do here? And you're like, I don't even know. That was just what I was feeling in that moment and in that time. And it becomes timeless because you can't duplicate it. You know what I'm saying? And I think that to me is so much better than if you were like mastered something and you're almost doing it robotically. You know what I'm saying? The fact that you did it and you were like, yeah, I'm figuring this out as I'm sharing my ideas and my feelings with you. That to me is like the ultimate artist. You know?
Hey, Ski, you said something one day. What'd you say? It was, I read it, I think it was on the Switched on BAP Instagram profile where you said, yo, the amount of cats that's gonna make songs to these beats is gonna be crazy.
Right.
That's what's dope about doing instrumental albums, though. You think it's gonna resonate with cats that way?
Yeah, I think so, man. I think we should have a couple of people posting up some nice songs with some of these beats, man, which is cool,
You know what I think is dope? I don't know if you guys remember, remember when you would listen to records back in the day and there'd be like a 15-minute break in between the record where it was just all music. Yeah. Like Prince did it, and Temptations did it, like different old school bands, and it'd be a whole break in the middle of the song at the end of the song, and people would take that part and just, you found yourself re-looping up just the music part. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's fantastic that you have a whole album of those parts.
Yeah.
People,
and
you know what I'm saying?
Kind of get into the production of the thing and the techniques and stuff. And honestly, that's the kind of stuff I pick apart. Be like, yeah, I could see. Oh wow, what was used right there? But then too, interludes in hip hop is dope. Did you get into the interlude game on these, Ski? On this joint?
I got 10 tracks, 10 interludes. Each track has an interlude.
Word, that's dope.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that's heavy
on that. I'll tell you what, I've been following it on Instagram, man. Like, you've been posting different beats up on Instagram.
He's a beast. He's a monster.
Check
with
out at Switched on BAP on Instagram, and you can check out little snippets of the album like that too. And yeah, I've been kind of thirsty for it. So
yeah,
I'm waiting on that one.
So let me ask you this, Ski. Are you gonna do and I hope you say yes, but are you gonna do just kind of like, you know how Splice has they have Oak talking about how he did Sorry Not Sorry for Demi Lovato. He has, like, he breaks it down and he just talks about his creative process. Will there be a time where you do that for your album? Or just talk about your pieces and stuff like that? Because I'm looking behind you and I mean, wow. You know what I'm saying? Like, why, I would love to ask you, like, why'd you pick that piece or that piece? Or why'd you choose you know what I'm saying, this filter versus another filter? Like, will there be a time where people could actually sit and kick it with you, where you do like something like this, where you talk about your actual rack?
Yeah, definitely.
Listen, Ski, I'm gonna tell you, this is what we got to do. Because me and Shiro and Ken and stuff have been planning something very specific for a little while, and I like you to be involved, because the way this is to me, this is kind of like a movement that's been happening. This mod bap, and the fact that it's kind of resonating with people, and there's these milestones that are happening throughout the thing. You know what I mean? And Shiro has done modular hip hop albums in the past, vinyl. You know what I'm saying? And he has a ton of experience in that stuff. But then with the stuff that Ken has done, our brother Upright, what he's done, and stuff that I've done, and start kind of melding this stuff together. And now what you're doing with Switched on BAP, I feel like there's a lineage of things that are happening. It's a movement. And so I want to be able to talk about that to people and kind of go extensive into some stuff. And I'm gonna get at you on the flip side to kind of talk about some of that, so we can get involved. I think it'll be a dope thing to do.
Spilling no beans.
Like, yeah. Kind of don't know what's going on. What'd you say?
I said, don't go spilling no beans.
Yeah, we ain't gonna spill.
We ain't ready for that.
No doubt.
You know what? Oh, hold on. Let me get my power cable. Hold on.
That's usually what the dad says to the kids when he's getting ready to spank them. So be careful. Let me go get the power.
What's up?
Yo, Corey.
What's up?
What's been new in the lab that you've been messing with? Latest and greatest.
I think what I've been messing with a lot actually the last week or two, I haven't been able to get in the lab too much, but I think what I've been most inspired by lately is the digitone.
Okay.
Yeah. Digitone is pretty nice, man. I mean, to bring that FM sound and that FM synthesis FM synthesis in general into this small little box that can be a part of your bigger setup or can be its own standalone thing is pretty dope. And the way, I have stereotypical thing in my mind about how FM synthesis sounds, right? And DX7, and I used to have like a hang up about, you know, digital synths. DX7 killed analog synths and killed a certain soulful sound from the 70s when the 80s came in. And, you know, I used to have a hang up about that, but the way they did this FM synthesizer, the Digitone, is pretty incredible. It's dope. It's just the right amount of features and sound, and you know what I mean? It's not overkill, but it's not underwhelming. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Right.
That's what I like about that joint.
Hold on. Hey, Stony.
Yeah.
What's your email? Stony10@gmail.
You could use the use the blue chat. So that
no, that's not my email.
Well, hold on. Use the blue chat.
I'm trying to send a real email.
Yeah, I know. Use the blue chat so it's not across error. I don't think she wants a million emails from random dudes.
Oh, my bad.
I just step in real fast. I'm gonna cut people off if they do that.
That'd be funny. Stony be like, I can't even go in my email no more.
Yo, give me your email.
All right, I'll shoot it to you in a minute.
All right.
You see that right there, Lasowski?
Yeah, I got it.
Word.
You got all my shit though, dog. Come on, man.
Yeah, I thought that Stony 10 was yours, but it's not. My bad.
I love it.
Not anymore.
Some random. Yeah.
Yo, I'm dying. But yo,
you know some troll is gonna actually like flood that shit, right?
It's all good. Hey, what you gonna say, Ken?
So I wanted to talk about the live stuff that you were getting ready for the other day.
Yeah.
So you were using you decided to do a live set, and you were using the 404 and the push, and right. we were kind of all chatting back and forth about about why you weren't using the live for it, and that you were using the push, and you were using the 404 and the effects and this and that. So I just wanted to get your perspective on what you like to do during a live set. How much of it do you want to be live, and how much of it do you want to be pre-sequenced and that kind of thing?
How much? Hold on. Ask that again. I'm sorry.
So I'm asking more about like your live scenario, right? How much of it do you want pre-sequence, like to where you're basically hit and play, and how much of it do you want to be having freedom to sequence on the fly and effect on the fly and that kind of thing?
50-50. You know, I mean, I want to be able to, jam out with the actual track. So, that's why I got the 444, because, the 444 has the dope effects. I can put, samples on the pad. I can kind of get busy. And the push is cool because I can, just activate the full tracks right there. You get me?
Mm-hmm. So let me ask you, why'd you switch over to the push for live stuff? Because you were doing machine, right?
Yeah, but see, the push has the Ableton effects.
Okay, so that's why you switched over?
I got the macros on the top. So, with Ableton, I can make a dope ass DJ effect rack. I can have filters, delays, yada yada.
Right.
Like a macro, everything right across the top.
Yeah, because I know you was using Machine for a while, because you were literally doing like sets, like literal like music sets with Machine.
Yeah.
So with the live is a different kind of live setup than that one.
Right, definitely, totally different.
Okay.
Machine, I was basically using Machine as like a instant replay machine. I was just triggering, the songs for them.
Right.
Feel me? But with the push and with the 4, it's more. It's more. I feel like a musician. I feel like
I use the push for my live setup too, and there's nothing like it. It's a whole different. It's too much. It's so much you could do with it.
Right.
Do you use the crossfader and all that to go from? Do you ever use the crossfader?
On what? On Ableton?
Sometimes,
yeah, I do. Sometimes.
Track. Do you do decks?
When I'm doing like parties, like regular DJ parties, but for this particular thing, it's not like that. This particular thing is more of a, I'm a producer, so it's more of a drum machine kind of thing.
Oh, you're doing live set. Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's what's up. And with push too, with Push, you got like scenes and clips you can launch and stuff like that, right? That's
Right.
and you can kind of on the fly arrange the production that's being heard.
But I mean, look at the name. It's live.
Yeah, exactly.
It's meant for that.
Yo, guys, I just sent you all of y'all a copy of Switched on Back, the advanced copy.
Oh,
So
that's what's up. I'm gonna rock that.
File. It's like 27 minutes long, so you can't skip. You gotta listen to it from beginning to end.
I like that. I like that. That's kind of dope, actually.
I'm all excited. Yo, real quick,
it makes me actually want to throw it to it makes me want to throw it to like my tractor and throw it on the vinyl tractor so that I can just lay it on there and just kind of really experience it like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Just let it play. I would love to hear y'all feedback. You know,
because I'll be rocking it in the car. I gotta hear it in the system.
Yo, real quick, I want to ask Ski, only because you know we hip hop heads, so you know I gotta ask, what you think about Push album and Ye album? Woo! The production, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I listened to both. I'm just curious how you feel about Push album and Ye album, as far as production and all that.
Definitely feeling Pusha T's album.
And Ninth Wonders too, man. Let's not forget.
No, man. I'm asking about Pusha T and Ye. Thank you, Ken. Thank you.
I'm just saying, I'm throwing the 3 big albums all out there at once.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you. Man.
There's 3.
Thank you, Ken. I'm talking about Pusha and Ye.
Kanye's album, I haven't listened to it fully yet, but from what I heard, it's cool. It might have. It's like one of those things that might have to grow on me.
Man, I'm feeling the Ye album. I ain't gonna lie to you, bro. I mean, Pusha. Push got bars, so. He be making it.
Bar person.
He a bar, yes. He got bars, so he makes it. No matter what it sound like, he gonna make it sound like something. The Ye album, it made me feel like old Kanye. It kind of like to me, you know what I mean? And I love all that stuff Mike Dean is doing in there with the mold.
Right.
You can hear all the filtering and stuff he's putting in there. I'm like,
I only heard the first couple songs, and then I went and started listening to the Ninth Wonder Black Thought album. It was like, this is crazy. I gotta go back and check it.
In production wise, is it very boom bappy or?
Yeah, I think it is, and that gets into something that I was saying. Like, listen, these 2 albums, I'm definitely feeling the Ninth Wonder and Black Thought album more, right? And then D Still was like, that's just because what he say, Ken?
He said they were old.
Yeah, he said that's because the Ninth Wonder and Black Thought, they're made for 2 different age groups. Right. And I was like, nah, okay, I see what you're saying, but I think Kanye's album, if you say that's for a younger age group, but you say Black Thought, Ninth Wonder is for an older age group, that puts me in the mind that I feel like it's time for hip hop to have subgenres, just like rock got, because I don't think either one of them is less dope than the other. Yeah, it does, but not the same way. There's classic rock, there's progressive rock, there's
right. Corey, I'm gonna say it like this. Listen,
dope contemporary.
Dude, as somebody who grew up really honestly, like, and I say this, it's gonna sound disrespectful, let it sound that way, whatever, but I'm just being honest. I never enjoyed hip hop that was on the radio. Like, really, like, it just, by and large, it wasn't what interested me. Like, you know, I was always into underground hip hop. So for me, subgenres of hip hop is a very old thing. I mean, you can go to horrorcore, you can go to, you know, thug rap. Like, there's so many subgenres, and they've been there for a long time. So the fact that a lot of the older generation that's came up on, you know, boom bap and whatnot is now like, oh, okay, now there's these subgenres. I'm like, nah, dude, like, I was not bumping Jermaine Dupri back in the day. Like, to me, like, no. I felt like that was barely hip hop at all. Like, you know, and I'm being real, like, you know, as far as subgenres are concerned, it was.
I'm fucking with it. I don't care.
But you know what though, Ken? That's one thing. Subgenres, like, not necessarily like gangster rap versus whatever horrorcore or something, but I'm saying, like, it feels like there needs to be, because we have a problem with ageism in hip hop, and it feels like there needs to be.
I agree with that.
Classic hip hop, like classic whatever, right? Or progressive or whatever. You know, these different things that I just feel like kind of defines us better. We could all be sitting in a room with people that may be 10 to 20 years younger than us. Does it make their music any better than what we grew up on, or our music any better than what they growing up on? I don't think so, but I think it's still a part of this umbrella and the culture that we are a part of.
Hip hop is the only music culture where If you owe, you whack.
Yeah, isn't it crazy? Because you think about cats that
I
love
disagree
rock,
with
they
that.
are not gonna.
I disagree with that.
Kids that love rock ain't gonna
Talk to
look
guys
at
in the punk rock scene and then tell me if that's the truth.
Oh,
No,
I don't know anything about the punk rock scene though.
It's a common thread through rebellious music. Period. Like like that.
You make a good point there.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's that rebellious attitude that hip hop came up on, and and to an extent, it's not necessarily wrong, but like that's when you go into these different subgenres. And for me, it's like, so yeah, like back in the day, there was, you had like Grave Diggers was not the same as, Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. Like it just wasn't.
By far, and I love them both.
Yeah, and I'm not saying one's better than the other at all.
Right.
I'm just simply saying that like you got to understand that like now it's just the way that music is delved out to people is on a more even playing field than I think it's ever been. Even if, you still have major labels, you still have these things going, like major channels and big money in it. At the same time, it's like it's easier for somebody with no money to get into the ears of the youth, so now these subgenres will become more important because now it's like, okay, well, how do you find the music that you gravitate to? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a huge change in the the music industry changed. Internet changed everything. The sharing the information age changed everything when it comes down to it.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say that as far as like rebellion music, I think there's a youth culture. Hip hop is a young genre, right? And at its core, it's a youth culture. So now what we're in a very special place to have seen, like my daughter is going to be 18 this year. And she's like, she trips out like I used to trip on the 70s, even, you know what I'm saying? Like she trips on the 90s, like, yo, the 90s was like, you know what I'm saying?
That's just because she's smart.
Yeah, but the thing is, there's something special about her. We just happen to be in a place where you can see it from its inception, and it's a part of that thread of our lives, no matter if she's born in the 70s or 80s, you know what I mean? And now it's at a point where there's new generations doing more stuff with it, and we tend to be like, yo, that ain't, or this ain't, all that. But it's the youth culture, and I think we're in a special place where the music and the culture is growing. It's at a different place. Well, how KRS want to say 50 years down the line, you could start this, because we'll be the old school artists. It's like, I love the fact that it's an umbrella now. You know what I mean? It's a lot of dope things about it. But I think the ageism comes in because it starts as a youth culture and the voice of the youth. And now we're older, but there's a youth still coming up. And that's why there's this like young kid that point up his finger to the older head, and the older head that's pointing his finger down to the, but it's, it's progression. It's all a part of it. That's why I feel like it's time to let it breathe and let it have subgenres, and it is okay. Like, yo, younger dudes love boom bap too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All right,
that's why I don't get mad. Dude, that's why I don't get mad at trap music. Like trap music and mumble rap and all that can be its own thing, because guess what? I didn't get into juggalos either. You know what I mean? Like the juggalos didn't bother me. I just thought it was garbage. So I moved on. Like it didn't bother me. What's that?
I don't know what that is, just like Stoney didn't know what Jack the Ripper was.
How you gonna blow me up like that? I mean, damn, really, Corey? Dang, bro.
That was harsh, man. Like, yeah. I'd have kept that private. That's got it.
A lot of people don't know what Jack the Ripper was.
Somebody calling the burn unit.
You must be rubbing off on him, Ken. You see?
Stoney?
Huh?
It's all good. You don't have to know what Jack the Ripper is.
Okay.
I disagree with that. I mean, but
you say I disagree with that. Word up.
I just wanted to put her on blast on the air.
Stoney loves being there like that, just so because she liked to bark on you anyway. But Stoney, hey, look, I'm freezing the frame on you right now. You got that sub 37 sitting back there, looking pretty sweet. Your setup is nice.
Thank you.
You rocking that 37?
Oh no, absolutely. I mean, what I'm trying to do now is, because this has the CV out of it, so I'm actually working on hooking that CV, the sub 37 coming out of that into the Mother 32. and then just play around with that. And then Ken and I are supposed to delve into the BeatStep Pro. We're gonna like get into the BeatStep Pro and stuff like that. Also,
we'll do that right after the show.
Yeah, and then I'll send you the information for the shipping, and we'll figure out which modules you're sending over, Corey, for the next, for the next installation. You showing them what you're sending? You can show them.
Well, I'll show what I got as extras, right? And I'm still worried about this situation.
Look at that art for the ears case. That thing is gorgeous.
Yeah, that case, right?
That's what needs to go to Stoney. That case
That's
people etched in it.
Yeah, hey man.
This is the new boombox picture. Remember, cats used to come through with boomboxes on their shoulder like that. That's what's up.
Yo, is that chord right there? What's that qubit?
Oh, this is a qubit rhythm.
That's the rhythm. Okay.
Yeah, that's the rhythm.
Whoa!
Whoa! Everybody pause.
Yeah, we just had a $2,000 catastrophe live on air.
Got it all though. Ain't nothing hit the flow.
Whoa!
So that's why I was holding it.
So you gotta give you all those modules?
Huh?
No. We do a trade. We trade everything.
Those are all now.
Those are all now
B stock.
Yeah, we trade some of the stuff. We got like what you got? You got my turntable over there, right?
I do. I got a turntable from you.
We trade gear, so we got a whole bunch of stuff. Corey, no, I got a garage full of all kinds of ridiculousness.
Right.
You said you even got not that I want one, but I was surprised you got a Ren over there sitting up.
Yeah, I do. Brand new, never used it.
Yeah, I was about to say, you said it was like just about completely not used.
No, I never used it. No, I never used it. The only reason why I still have it is because they sent it to me with the plaque with my name on it, so I respect it, but I never used it. I mean, I'm using it live right now, but I never got to get into the Ren. At the time, I was doing something else. But I never touched it. My 4000 is lit. My 2500, I never used. Never used 2500. Got red pads and everything. Never used it. I can't use everything.
No, you can't exactly use everything, but this is all tools though. That's what's dope about it. It's like tools because every carpenter don't use the same tool for every job. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So that's what's up with it. But hey, Stoney, we're gonna have to talk about these modules and see what we can make happen.
All right, man.
All right, so listen.
And then everybody can follow. They can follow the progression.
Yeah.
Next show, I'll show them how I'm using stuff. It'll be dope. And then if I'm lucky enough, I can talk to Ski about it. You know what I mean?
That's what's happening. Ken, do you still use your Quadnic?
My Quadnic, I sold. I sold it to a friend that's local. So if I ever had to fight him, I can take it back. What was bad about that was like every time I went to sell it, I would use it for a little bit, and then I'd be like, "Oh, I don't want to sell this." Like that thing is dope. So yeah, I'm a little bit upset that I sold it, but I kind of want it back.
Yeah, I sold it once and I bought it again. Ski, have you checked out the Quadnic joint?
What is that?
So the Quadnic is by Studio Electronics.
Okay.
And it's a 4-voice digital module. And then it has some weird stuff in here like process mode where you can put it on chord mode. You can get it on process mode. You can detune each of the 4 voices to, detune them from one another.
That's where it gets fun.
Yeah, it gets crazy right then. But then you can process it so it's like 2 times add, 2 times mode, 2 times PM, 2 times.
And
PM
it's lo-fi. Like that's the thing.
Yeah, it's lo-fi.
It's
a crazy module, man.
Corey, they didn't have like a ton of great info as far as exactly what that thing is, but it's kind of like lo-fi in a pretty nice way. Like it's got man, like if you listen to it, like you'll definitely hear it. Like it's got like this kind of vintage breakup like digital oscillators. Like I got the Ensoniq SQ80 behind me, right? And one of the things that I love about it is it's a hybrid synth, right? So it's got analog filters and analog VCA. Like it's got SEM filters in it, CEM filter, Curtis. It's got those same filters from the old Prophet, and it's got the VCA from the Memory Moog. but then the oscillators are 8-bit wave sample ROM oscillators, right? And the thing about those old oscillators, those old 8-bit ones, is not only was there a little bit of noise in them because of the way the chip was and it's lo-fi and all, but it kind of warbles just a little bit. Like it's not 100% stable, and it's really cool sounding. And there's a lot for the filter to bite onto because it's so lo-fi like that. The quad neck is kind of similar in that way. Like it's got this kind of like, there's like, because it's lo-fi, it's got this grit that your analog filters will bite onto and have fun with, you know? So it's really dope.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna put that in my rack today and jump in there. Hey, this is a dope, yo, somebody in the chat just said Bernie Worrell gave him his DS Mofo before he passed away, signed by him. Wow. That's huge, yo. That's crazy. CC Funk. CC Funk, you one from Detroit, right? I think he is.
I'm still happy I got to shake his hand and thank him personally, like right before he passed. Like he was such a cool guy, man. Like just super down to earth, super couldn't have been more humble. Like dude was just chill, you know. Like I would hang out with him
a couple times at NAMM. He was dope.
Oh God, he was great.
Yeah. So yo, we're gonna round things up. This has been a dope show. We got a chance to talk about a lot of dope stuff. We got a chance to tell everybody about Ski Beatz' new project, Switched on BAP. Looking forward to that coming out. Ski, you got anything you want to lead the people with before we get out of here?
Yeah, man. You know, if you would like to follow me, you can follow me at Switched on BAP. So you can learn more about the album when it's going to drop, and you can see some of the creative process, because you know I'm definitely working on Switched on BAP too. Yeah, man. You know, that's pretty much it, man.
Oh well, hold on. Before we go, I meant to ask you this. How many joints is on Switched on BAP?
10.
10. And who mixed it?
Young Guru.
Young Guru mixed it.
Oh, nice. That's another Delaware alumni. So shout out to Delaware.
So we're in for a sonic treat with Switched on BAP because, you know, one, it's mod BAP, so it's mixing, boom BAP and modular synthesis. And, it's kind of taking that to a certain level, but then being mixed by Young Guru. I mean, the sonics is going to be on point. You know it already.
Did an excellent job. Definitely.
Word. I can't wait to check it out. I'm about to go check it out here now. But yeah, thanks for coming on the show, man. You're always welcome to come on the show and be a part of the crew and the panel and get it in. So I appreciate you for jumping on, man.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you.
No doubt. Ken, what you got to say on the way out, man?
I got to say, I'm gonna be bumping some dope tunes later on, man.
That's what's up.
I'm hyped, man. Like, yo, I'm gonna be rocking that loud today. Like, wife is not gonna be happy.
I'm gonna have it in the car. Ken, I'm soon gonna have Matrix Brute in the house, man. So
yo, I'm hyped. I'm hyped for you, man.
Yo, how was that thing, man? How was the Brute, that Matrix thing in the back?
It's not that good. Like you guys,
right?
I want it to become like a little known classic. So just don't worry about it. Nah, it's honestly, it's still like so mine is a prototype. So if you look at it, like it looks a little bit different than the final version. But it is easily my favorite synthesizer in my setup. And like that includes my modular and everything. Like just because of what it is, like it has certain limitations, but just the way that it's laid out and how usable it is, like for tracks and everything, like I love it, man. Like I use it constantly. I use it more than anything else in my setup, just because, if I wanna process it separately, it's got external processing that I can do on it. If I wanna switch the filters around, this, that, and the third, I can do all that, man. Like it's just
what I can't remember, Ken, though. Does it have inputs so that you can process things through the filter and the effects that are, because it's analog effects.
Oh yes. Not only does it have that, but it's got an envelope follower on that. So like if you want to throw, like say you throw like a drum loop through it, right? You can turn the envelope follower on and it'll make your filters jump with the drum loop and everything. Like it's dope, man. Like, oh, I know I'm saying like a lot, but I get excited when I think about it.
Ken is I went to my man Glenn's crib once to borrow his. Glenn used to work he was the VP of product development at Arturia. And we don't live too far from one another. Glenn is a good dude. He's the homeboy. And Glenn let me borrow his Matrix Brute for like a week or something like that. And I was telling him as I was pulling up, I was like, you know, Ken got like 9 million videos on the Matrix Brute. And he was like, yeah, he loves that thing. I was like, yeah, he's a Matrix Brute evangelist. So you get him started talking on the Matrix Brute, it's gonna be a while.
It's funny because Glenn, you know, Glenn was basically the guy who birthed it. And he even, like, for him, he's like, oh, it's still not what his dream synth is. Like he has ideas of what he wants to make as a dream synth. And I'm like, I'm hyped for that too. But like for me, as far as a mono synth, which it can play paraphonic as well, which Mark Doty, don't kill me for saying paraphonic. I know how you get. This thing is
it's just not 2 notes, right?
We're not going to get into that. We're not we're not going to step on the minefield of that. But what I'll say is this, is that I was skeptical when it first started, because I was like, the Brute sound as a whole it's really powerful, right? Like in a mono voice, you know, it's brash and it's very powerful on its own. So I was like, I don't know how it's going to work if you're adding more oscillators and you're making it thicker. And they reworked the voicing inside of it, so it's not like the original Mini Brute. Like, it doesn't overdrive in the same ways. Like, you can get it to do that, but it has way more headroom. It doesn't suffer from what the sub 37 does. Like, there's plenty of headroom in it beforehand, so you can actually go to town on this thing and just get these massive, like, slightly detuned sounds that are evolving. And the way that the oscillators track across it, it sounds more like a vintage synth to me than most of the modern stuff, you know? Just like we were talking about studio electronics, I personally feel like a lot of the studio electronics, like Moog style synthesizers that they make, sound more to me like a Moog than Moog does. You know what I mean? Like, it has
that vintage sound, that classic sound. They practice that.
Exactly. And this kind of has that same liveliness to it. Like, people were making fun about when Richard Devine said in the press material for the DeepMind 12, it kind of sounds modular. And they were like, well, what the hell does modular sound like?
But you know what? He was talking about all the modular.
No, I know. And I'm not
that went over other
I'm not discounting what he said, but to me, like, I get what he was saying, because to me, this, it sounds like modular. It has that liveliness. Like, when I patch up a few analog oscillators in my modular, they track slightly different because they're calibrated slightly different. Like, you know, this thing has that liveliness where it's in tune, but it has this liveliness.
Long story short, Ski, you need a Matrix Brute. That's what's up.
When we get up, next time we get up, man, I'll have it with me, man. Like, I'll bring it.
No doubt.
Either that or you come out here, but either way, like, it'll be with me and we can have some fun.
Word. And Stone.
But all I'm doing, just last thing, all I'll say is that I have
ain't no last thing.
MPC. No, this is the last thing. MPC sound packs are coming soon, because, you know, I got the live, and, you know, I've got a ton of backlog of sounds that I did for Native Instruments, sounds.com.
Send me some sounds, son.
Yeah, I got gigs. I got gigs of unreleased sounds. So I'm putting them into the MPC because I want to format them for that. And it's a little bit easier for me to format for that than it was for Machine. So I kind of have been holding off so that I had the MPC so I could do that. And that stuff is coming real soon. Deep multi-sampled synthesizer sounds, like full instruments that you can play. It's going to be dope.
Yeah, I could tell from what you was playing, it's going to be like that. You were playing a beat that was like, whoa, I ain't heard Ken dig in like that in a long time. So it's like, I can see you really coming up with some stuff, man. So that's dope. Yo, Stoney, what you got going on as we
you know, follow me on Stoney's music, Instagram, YouTube.
Tell people about your Saturday show on Instagram Live.
Oh yeah, Stoney's Sessions. Well, I'll be doing one tonight at 9:30. I do it's a live stream that I do where sometimes guests pop up and we just organically just start talking about production. It's definitely, we talk about everything, but it's, you know, really a producer's, you know, room to come in and understand just production in general. We don't just talk about gear. We talk about our, you know, producer's lifestyle, you know, your musical taste, you know, what's new, what's dope. I even talk about stuff like trimming back and taking things off of the desk and just sticking to one piece. I like give them challenges. Some weeks we give challenges like, okay, pick one piece of gear that you're going to use for the week, and no plugins, just all the standard basic things that you can have. Strip yourself of all that stuff and see what you come up with. So yeah, come check it out. It's Stony Session. It's on Saturday nights, 9:30. You know, and just follow me on my social media.
Eastern, right? 9:30 Eastern. Is it 9:30 Eastern?
Eastern, yeah, Eastern. Sorry, 9:30 Eastern PM, 9 p.m. Eastern. And follow me on my website. It's stonysworld.com. You guys can go check out all the things that I'm working on, and I got some music coming out. So just follow me on my socials.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And thanks for having me on the show again. Of course.
It's fam. That's what's up. So yeah, I want to thank everybody for coming out to see this to watch and listen to this next episode of Beat People Podcast, episode 37. And just remember, for those of you that may not get a chance to watch, obviously it's live streamed, but it's also on YouTube, and that's where it lives. But then you can also subscribe to the Beat People Podcast on iTunes Music or the iTunes Podcast app that's out there. So you could just kind of listen to it while you drive to work, and or whatever you're doing when you're working out or whatever. So yeah, but on the flip side, there's beatpeople.com. Make sure you go up and check out beatpeople.com, and there's new product coming out there very soon. I'm still gonna drop this Modulax sound pack and instrumental album, so that'll be coming real soon. And actually, I think out of everybody, I have shared that Modulax with D Still. D Still loves that pack. So yeah, stay tuned for that, and we'll check you out. If not next week, it'll be the following week, but you may see us sooner. All right, Beat People Podcast. We don't beat people, we are beat people. Peace.